Hey y'all, it's Krypton Critics. I'm here to review the film Paddington from 2014. Now, one of the things that I really enjoy about this movie is, I've seen this movie before the past few days. I saw it 2 years ago, and there was a few things that either I forgot or I didn't realize what was in the, more, reading under the surface type messages. Now, obviously, you got the characters. Probably the weakest character is, that's given, extensive lines, is the villain. I mean, she does have, reasoning for why she's doing this. But in parts, it feels a little rushed. I understand completely, now, I'm sorry, if you don't know the story, I'm going to spoil it here. Paddington is a bear who can speak English, and he has affection for marmalade. This character was made roughly 100 years ago, and, that is a theme that's been, kept since then. In this, he's from darkest Peru, and he goes off, starts living in London. He's taken in by this kind family. There's the father of the family, Henry, the wife slash mother, Mary, the two kids, John and Judy, and they also have like a nanny type aunt named Mrs. Bird. And the father, he has reservations about the bear being there, and I understand because that little fucker, he basically destroyed his bathroom, not in dumb defecating way. It was just he doesn't know how this technology works. He doesn't know how the toilet works because where he's from, they don't exist, and he just like floods the entire bathroom with water. It's a ridiculous scene. There's a lot of ridiculous scenes. Some of them are amazing and will make you laugh. Some of them are clearly made for the kids. There's no jokes that like hurt, like made me cringe or anything like that. I've seen a lot of anime movies where that has happened. This does not. It's just, oh, that was just silly. Let's go to the next scene, and we'll get something warm-hearted to get you back into the story. But the villain, her father was the explorer from many years ago that found darkest Peru, where these English-speaking or these bears that could speak, and I think he taught them English and introduced them to marmalade, and that's why they're obsessed with it now. That's a long time to be obsessed with marmalade from bears. Sure. In Paddington, he comes over here partly because he has a relative that dies in like this. I think it was an earthquake, and it was devastating for him, and he wanted to find a home that you could come to. And years ago, it's even explained in like old-timey recording, like black and white, oh, hey there, chap, that this guy Montgomery Clyde said, if the bears having a hard time, they can come to London, come to my crib, and they'll be accepted as family. And that's an interesting like full through of what deems family. You don't have to look like everybody else to be considered family, and you don't have to be blood related, and you can be from somewhere else, and that's a very powerful theme. And what I think is a very major theme that a lot of kids won't get, but I think second viewings of it, with adults that rewatch this movie will be able to grasp onto, this film has commentary on immigration, xenophobia, and colonialism. So let's backtrack and let's talk about the character of Paddington. He is a bear, but let's imagine that he's a person, and his demographic, reflects the area he comes from. He's from Peru, like he's or anybody of a country that is not England, where he comes from. To them, he's the complete outsider. And throughout South America, North America, and Africa and Southeast Asia, there was a lot of the white man in Europe thinking they can take everything and break the people there, take their money, and enslave them, and all kinds of crap. And they don't want to do that because that'll be a little hard for the kiddies. But it's something about the safari hats on the guy, and everybody else around him stating that they're not, you can't consider them people. I mean, they are bears, but hypothetically saying they can speak and they are intellectual enough to be like people. They have a lot of similarities, very anthropomorphized type of way. And he says one of the people that he's been around, and they look at animals from across the world, and they're like a special council. So it's kind of like the elite are looking at people around us, saying they're not people because they can't speak English and they don't act like me. They don't play cricket. A little cliche, but still. There's even a shop owner that Paddington and the very loving British mother Mary meet, and he tells about he's from Eastern Europe, and that he says that a roof doesn't make a home. Just because you're underneath a house doesn't mean you feel like you're at home. And he says he had to bring in his culture to his shop to make it feel like he's back at home. And that's a beautiful sentiment, especially for people that are immigrants and coming to either a country that doesn't accept them, or it just feels so different culturally. Even the villain hammers on to this point by saying, well, you can't consider him family because he's not like you. And I've seen before that I really enjoy the character arcs because the father originally didn't want the bear to be in his house because he saw him as kind of savage, and even suggested that he should be sent to an orphanage because he has Paddington has very archetypical way of coming to the like big idealized country that you want to go to, whether it be America, Australia, or England. He starts off, he has no money. He comes on a makeshift boat. It reminds me very, very reminiscent when you would hear stories about like the old Jewish, German, or Italian grandparent from that now lives in New York, telling their grandchildren that when I came here I only had $5, but I still made a living and I still started my own business, and you should be proud of your culture. And he is like, he brings up all the time of his cultural differences, but doesn't make it a divide. He fully embraces what he enters into. And I know I'm really going in deep into a kid's movie with a talking bear, but I'm serious. I'm like, when I first saw it, I didn't see these messages quite like it is uncurrent. And I think a lot of people, when they go back, they can realize it's like, oh shit, that was very smart. Anyway, moving on. We had a long time on that, Jesus. I kind of wanted Joe, the taxi driver, who takes around the villain back and forth, and she still wants to go after the bear because her father never did, and even his elite, uh, council wanted to, have him be killed and stuffed and put on to display at their fancy pants museum, which we do see later in the film that Paddington has to go to. He'd been going on a trip throughout half of the movie looking for Montgomery, and he had no idea that the person that was hunting, he didn't even know who the person hunting him was until the last act. And yeah, that's very interesting. I had a certain amount of sympathy to one of the side characters, a side character, that was Miss Curry, who is the neighbor of the Brown family made up of John, Henry, the family that takes in Paddington, because he's just used for ends of the mean, and you could tell he definitely had the hots or some kind of romantic interest, just one-sided for the villain. I don't blame him. Nicole Kidman is still very beautiful, and even in this movie she has a villainous seductive type trope attached to her. Now, I also want to talk about another thing that, even when I first saw it, it blew me away, but I was really analyzing it this time, was the cinematography. This is one of the best shot live action kids movies I've ever seen in my fucking life. Just the way some shots are framed, some wide angle shots are really done well to show emotion. Close-ups of characters show their nuances in their faces. Just so many things are superb. Lighting. It reminds me very similar to style I see with Bryan Singer. He loves, especially in his X-Men movies, you'll have a blue or a yellow light. Most of it is encased in darkness in the scene, but he'll have a light to reflect that is not white. So all in all, Obsession with Marmalade, saves the day with pigeons. Was a recurring joke in the movie, and that is a good way to tie in. It's very good how they set up certain sides, tiny little jokes, but it does come back later in other acts, and I was that was impressive. A lot of movies would just drop it, and it's oh, whatever. They brought back the fact that the daughter of the Brown family, she does start to learn bear, and she recognizes that Paddington's in trouble. Henry, his disgust of his son blowing up shit with chemistry sets comes back, because the kid wouldn't let it go. He's a little bit of a hell raise. I want to see him a little more try unintentionally wreck shit. That would have been really cool. Even the mother, she is a professional painter for books, and she had always been wondering throughout the first two acts, who should she draw, the man that takes charge and would be great for the illustration to be this character. And she had lost that type of man in her husband since they had kids. And he just all became about order and not taking chances, and constantly being obsessed with percentages of injury and accident. And I can understand that. your love and your concentration on like what shouldn't and shouldn't be can get in the way of your personality and how you actually perceive what your world should be in comparison to what other people say it should be. Now, the graphics for Paddington are unbelievable. You could say, well, it's a recent movie. I'm like, well, sometimes people pull that bullshit where they don't care, or you can tell that they put in a real effort. They put in a real effort, and I say they definitely succeeded. And every hair follicle, the way his eyes move, because he's completely CGI. He's voiced by an actor, I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, overall, this movie is like really fun. It's entertaining. Once again, it has very cartoony jokes that are perfect for kids. It has a lot of British wit. And certain things you would expect, like men going in drag, but being completely like just man's man. What I mean by that is that it doesn't have any traits of initially femininity or anything other than straight dude. It's set up as like uncomfortable situation to get information, what have you. There's even an arc with the daughter where she gets confidence in herself to ask out the boy in her class, and I think a big part of that is because she saw the reflection of her dad taking charge and not being afraid of everything. And that gave her the idea that she can, just try to live life and not always have to second guess and keep herself as a shut-in. And it was very cute to see the mother hug and almost cry over seeing that she brought a boy home. That was very entertaining. But yeah, this movie is really fun. Pretty much everyone's on the same page. They liked it, but I think this is really good. And as a kids movie, it is it's definitely not one of my favorite films, but considering as a kids movie, it is one of the best I've seen as just kids movie. Especially live action. Typically with live action, they're like, well, just the shots are beautiful enough. We don't have to worry about story. We'll just do something slapsticky and very 90s, and just throw in a comedian and have some bunch of dumb toilet humor. But no, they took care, and I'm glad to see that we're getting a sequel, and I would like to see what they do, and let's hope it's around as good. Not every sequel has to be better than the previous, but it just as long as they put in the same effort, they put in character and cinematography, jokes, and most importantly, I would say that warm-heartedness and actual emotion. I was definitely going to suggest you go see a movie I saw on Netflix. I think it should definitely still be there by the time you see this. As part of the Krypton Critics, I love you.